Well, divas, you made the call and I have answered it. Today, I am going to be ranking and reshuffling the world's longest album ever created, the Tortured Poets Department. This is a series on my channel where I go through Taylor Swift's track lists and I try and fix them because they tend to be a little bit messy and they tend to sometimes, maybe miss the point of the story that's being told on the record. I try to go through and reorganize them in a way that makes sense to me, usually in chronological order. And then I also, rank and tell you what my favorite songs are. Now, my rankings do not impact necessarily my track list creation. I am going for story, and if you go through all of the videos that I've done so far, I've done most of the albums. Fearless is coming in about a month, don't worry. But if you look at the way that I've done them, they usually don't always include my favorites, or they include songs that I would not personally listen to in order to serve the message of the story. So I'm really trying to do a public service here, okay? That is the goal and the mission and the vibe of this video. Before we get into my ranking and reshuffling of the Tortured Poets Department, I just want to say a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Riverside. This is truly a dream and a kismet collaboration to me because Riverside is the place where I have been recording all of the Evolution of a Snake, the Taylor Swift podcast content for the last year or so, and sold out show live in London. Clearly something is working well for us. You may or may not know that Madeline and I live on opposite sides of the world. I'm in Singapore and she's in Montana. That is a 14-hour time difference, and we need to record pretty regularly, at least once or twice throughout the week. And that makes recording and editing our podcast quite the production. Before I found Riverside, Madeline and I were using a different software to record, and it was honestly just a mess, dealing with both of our external cameras and microphones. Sometimes it wouldn't even record fully. When I found out about Riverside, I was like, okay, this makes sense because you have a studio where you log into and you can control all of your various different bits and pieces that you have attached to your podcast setup from one platform itself. So when Madeline and I are talking, if one of us is a little bit loud, I can turn one of our mics down. I can also switch our headphones in case sometimes, this happens to me all the time. The Bluetooth headphones die in the middle of recording and you need to switch to a wired pair. Riverside allows you to kind of accommodate all of these logistical challenges without really needing to interrupt your recording very much. And if you do, there's this thing called adding a marker to your clip, which I do all the time in case one of us coughs or Madeline's cat Chester starts meowing very loudly. I just add a little mark, and then when I go into the editing portion of Riverside after we're done recording, I can literally, instead of having to sit there and scrub through hours upon hours of footage, I can just go straight to Chester's meow and edit it right out there and then before I even export the video to be uploaded. Something that's really astounded me about Riverside, even just observing its developments in the last 6 months, so as a user, way before they wanted to work with me, is the advent of AI and how that has completely changed the experience of creating content with Riverside. The AI assistant is a lifesaver. It helps us come up with show notes and show descriptions. It also gives us timestamps, so I don't have to sit there and go through everything that I've already said for a second time. And it helps us create little magic clips, which allow us to cut down our long form content into TikToks and Instagram reels, which helps us to grow and promote the podcast a little bit more. What I'm saying is all of those tasks by themselves are full-time jobs. They take forever. You have an editor usually on hand to do all of these things for you. The amazing thing about Riverside is that you can do it all in one place. And that has really changed my workflow, and we would not be able to be as productive as we are on the Evolution of a Snake without it. It is really kind of miraculous what a light touch I have to give the podcast after we're done recording. All of our energy goes into coming up with the content and performing, doing the show and talking to each other. It is a huge relief and a burden off my shoulders to be able to outsource some of this work to Riverside. I really think that Riverside is the future of content creation. So if you've ever been wanting to get into a podcast or start making YouTube videos, now is the perfect time because of all these tools that are available to you. You can for sure pursue something full-time while doing this on the side, especially when you have a tool as useful as Riverside. So if you're interested, you can sign up to Riverside with my coupon code SWIFTologist. I will leave the link down below and get 15% off of individual plans. And I guarantee you're going to stick around if you're interested in content creation. So thank you again so much to Riverside for sponsoring this video. Now, I need everybody to keep in mind that these are just my opinions. If you like these songs, if you think that certain songs that I've cut deserve to be on the set list, that's totally okay. And I would love to hear you express your reasons for why. But if they start with you're stupid, or if they start with something rude and bang out of order, then guess what? I'm going to block you, or I'm going to respond very rudely back to you in the comments. When it comes to energy on my channel in Swiftologist spaces, you get back what you give to. Okay, so just let that be a warning for anyone. But also, if you've never been here before, my name is Zach. I'm the Swiftologist. I make thoughtful Reshuffle weekly videos about pop culture. And today we're definitely still on the Tortured Poets kick. That will be ending soon, or, pausing, because it's never going to end, truly. The Taylor content never stops. But I will be reintroducing other subjects back to my channel, as, I am wont to do. If you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe, because over 50% of you that watch my videos do not subscribe, and that's honestly bullying. So please stop bullying me. So here we are again on that little town street where I rank all of the songs from the Tortured Poets department. I think it'll be fun to go through my blind ranking that I did before the album came out at the very end of this video, just to see what's changed. But I've developed some new categories because, I want to have a fresh take. Straight into the canon, these are the songs that are just instantly classics, icons, divas, moments. A Most Beautiful Diva is a runner-up to Straight Into the Canon. These are great, beautiful, gorgeous songs, but not like top tier, but very close. Gorgeous Girl, I like to listen to her. She's pleasing to me. Well, okay. If it comes on shuffle, sometimes I skip it, sometimes I don't. Well, no, I'm definitely skipping. And Delete is, why was this put on the record in the first place? Which becomes a very pertinent question when we get to the anthology. Yes, you guessed right. Up first, Fortnite featuring Post Malone. Now, here's the thing. I did a lot of hateration on Fortnite when it first came out. I think because it just wasn't what I was expecting it to be, and the Post Malone feature is just kind of like, okay, it neither makes the song better nor worse. I also just don't think this is a good opening track to the record. And I also am not sure that it really adds to the story. It adds to the vibe and the sonic development of the record, but in terms of the story and the message, I just don't get it. However, I do listen to this. I select to listen to this a lot. It's like Antihero to me. Not my favorite from the record, but really when I am putting my headphones in and I'm going to the gym and I don't know what to listen to and I'm late for the bus and I don't want to pick a song, I will just turn on Fortnite. And it pleases me and it does what it needs to do, which is provide pleasant background music. So I'm going to put Fortnite into Gorgeous Girl for now because we have so many songs to work with. I'm going to try and be strict about keeping it to the divas. The Tortured Poets department, another song that I had a strong good reaction to and then a strong negative reaction to. The second verse on this song is so stupid. It's stupid, it's dumb, it's obnoxious. A lot of people are like, well, that's the point. I don't care if that's the point. I still think that it's stupid. So I, however, think there's a very beautiful melody and hook hidden in that chorus. And, the production is kind of interesting to me. It's definitely a rote Jack Antonoff number, but that's not always a bad thing. I'm going to put Tortured Poets department in well, okay. I have definitely been turning it up more often than not. But, however, it still is not a Gorgeous Girl, a Beautiful Diva, or Straight Into the Canon. No. My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. That's also going into well, okay. Actually, can I put my... Should I put My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys into Gorgeous Girl? Well, yes. I listen to her a lot. She's fun. The writing is clunky. Those three opening songs, that was an interesting journey that we had, wasn't it? That was an interesting journey that we had. It's fun. The metaphor is overwrought, that's for sure. And it's too simple and flimsy of a metaphor to extend at that length. But Taylor loves this song. Down Bad, Straight Into the Canon. Fun. I think I've also, what's interesting about me is that I'm open to having my opinion changed about any of these songs the longer that I live with them, experience them more. In my video reviewing Tortured Poets, I pointed to the contrast between the verses and the chorus on this song as an example of kind of unclear writing, but a lot of people pointed out that that's kind of the point of the song, and I think that the point I was trying to make is better made by the flimsy extended metaphor on My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys rather than the interesting contrast that is drawn here in Down Bad, but that's just iconic to me. So Long London. This song, interestingly, is a song that I had a negative reaction to after I heard it for the first time, or not negative, but I was underwhelmed by it. I guess it's just not a track 5 to me. But once I can get over the fact that it's not a track 5, which you will see, I have certainly gotten over that as I redo the track list. Spoiler, this is no longer the track 5. Once I get over that, I actually really like this song. I think the production is fun. It does kind of remind me of You're on Your Own, Kid in the way that it builds and pulses. I also think there are some really gorgeous lyrics in this song. I think the imagery about, hospitals, ships drowning, long labor, locked up years spent roasting the turkey. A lot of people came for me after TTPD came out and were like, well, don't you feel so stupid? There wasn't an heirloom turkey cook. There was an heirloom turkey cook on almost every song. She compared being with this man to being in jail, to being in the hospital, to being bored to her bones. Does that sound good to you? It is a bigger roast to describe someone as so boring and dull that you simply had to date an idiot to remind yourself that you could feel things after being locked up in jail, in prison, in hell for so long. So, people just aren't listening. But Daddy, I Love Him, straight into the canon. This is just a classic Taylor Swift song to me. It gets better with each listen. If I had to pick a gripe with this song, it would be that I think the production really holds it back a little bit. I think that we needed more crashing live instruments on this. We needed to revert to a twangier, earlier model of Taylor Swift to really give this song a fair shake. If this does in fact get a full production on the Eras Tour, which by now, I guess the time that this video is uploaded, we will know if it does, I imagine that that's going to have a lushness, a richness to that instrumental live that really adds to the song, and I can't wait to hear that. Fresh Out the Slammer, oh my gosh, straight into the canon. This was a song that grew on me exponentially. I liked it when I first heard it, but again, when I first heard Tortured Poets Department, I was taking bullets from every area, and I wasn't really able to slow down and process anything. So the songs that have become my favorites, I would say, are not the songs that I had the strongest, most gag-worthy reactions to upon first listen, but Fresh Out the Slammer is such a pretty, such a gorgeous, sweltering, summer, hot song. Another heirloom turkey cook, years of labor, locks and ceilings, handcuffed to the way I was feeling. I love her vocal delivery on this song. I love the story that she's telling here. I think it primes us and sets us up for what's about to happen on this record really well. And you'll see how I make use of it in my tracklist reshuffle later on. But I really do love this song. Definitely one of my top 3, I would say, on the record. It has such a pretty melody. And this is where I think her work with Jack Antonoff really just synthesizes and comes together really in an interesting way. And this song is sonically quite different from anything she's done before, which is why I find it intriguing. Florida. Well, no. I'm not going to go with delete because every so often I'm like, okay, Florida's one hell of a drive. Fine, sure, every now and again. But not... The writing is not good. That's really what lets it down. Their voices together sound fine, but I just, it's not for me. It's not for me. I'm not from Florida. I don't have an affiliation with it. I don't think that Taylor Swift really does either, which is why it rings as kind of strange. It's a strange metaphor. Nobody can really understand what she's talking about. You can pretend that you do. You can make up a reason, but the actual textual depth is not there in the lyrics. Guilty as Sin, straight into the canon. I love this song, slowly competing for my top pick from this whole record. I think that this song is so elegant, and I think that it's overwritten in a way that really behooves the theme of the story that she's telling on this specific song. She's talking about how you can feel like you are betraying someone even in your imagination, the different ways that you can fall out of love with someone, and how it happens slowly as a process over time, not just a dramatic action or an event, which is really what I predicted about the Jover situation. And what we've come to find out is that, yeah, there may have been other people involved, but that was not the main reason for the disintegration of the relationship. It was that she got locked into a pattern of behavior that felt safe and secure, but also shackled her and imprisoned her. And she didn't realize until she was out of it just how down bad it was making her. So I find this song to be such a lush and potent explanation of why she circled straight back to the rat after being locked up for so long. I mean, it was kind of the one that got away, I suppose, before that happened, or it was the one avenue that she didn't explore. I've always thought of Harry Styles as the one that got away, but that did get kind of a fair shake. They got to see how they would work together as a couple. With the rat, they kind of literally never even got to explore that together at all. So it was truly the question. And I don't want to talk about that. Don't talk about question in my comments. It was truly the question that she needed to answer. And as I always have been saying over and over, sometimes the question is better than the answer, as we found out on Torture Poets Department with someone who deserves to go to jail. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? Oh, this is going to be my hot take. I'm going to put it in, well, okay. Because if I am in my pure Swiftie frame of mind and I'm thinking about how Taylor gags all her haters, blah, Taylor's the best person in the whole world, she's never done anything wrong, I love that she's a billionaire, then I can get into Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. As a critic, as a writer, as someone who really admires Taylor's turn of phrase, her way with words, I think that this is clumsy. I think it's clunky. And I don't think it has a place in the story of Tortured Poets. It was just an I want everyone to be scared of me moment that is not self-aware. It's not very satirical. A lot of people are like, it is satire. It's not. Where's the satirical part? Where's the humor? Where's the fun? It's not. It's serious. She's being dead serious. Again, also so many mixed metaphors here that I just think don't work. I gagged on the first listen, for sure. It's a lot to take in, but have I returned to it? Almost never. It also has a really slow build. So having to sit through that really slow slog of the first part of the song is not that interesting to me. The vocals slayed the house down boots. That's why it's not going into well, no, or delete, because there is a gag element to it. I can fix him. No, really, I can. Well, okay. I just don't return to this song ever. But it is an important narrative structural device on the track list. And I will say that this track list in general is one of the best ones that Taylor has ever put together. I don't think that it's perfect, but I think that it definitely is closer to delivering a theme or a cohesion than it ever has been before. So congratulations to her on that. LOML, oh my God, straight into the canon. This song has ruined my life. This song is so devastating and so sad. This and its sister song, The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, which we'll get to in a second, are just the finest example of Taylor dialed up to 100 and really committing to the bit and making it work. She's at her best when she's brokenhearted as a writer, truly. Not when she's being meta or not when she's trying to right a public wrong. When she hones in on a specific target, a specific person or a specific wrong that was done to her. Because again, Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? It's not clear exactly who she's talking to. It's more like a general, woe is me. You don't understand me. I'm biting back. LOML, The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, have specific targets. She was the archer. She literally pulled back her bow, took an eye on the bullseye, and went pew, and shot this man in the heart. And it shot me in the heart too, because I'm combing through your braid of lies. Down. I'm down. I don't even have an intelligent comment to say about that, because every line on this song, it's like one punch in the face after another. By the time I'm done with listening to this, I have no teeth left. They're all on the floor. I'm bleeding. I'm gasping. I'm dying. I'm literally dying at the end of this song. And I have to clap and cheer for that. It did something incredible. Speaking of songs that did something incredible, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, straight into the canon. So fun, so fun. I love her delivery here. Lights, camera, bitch, smile. Iconic. That was the gag of the album for me, truly. That was the moment where I really was like, oh, she's taking it. She's taking it. And we had been needing this. We had been needing a moment of levity, a moment of pure campery and fun. This was just, it was an I can still make the whole place shimmer moment, you know? And it's so tied to Bejeweled as well. This is ripe for a music video. I would love to see an Eras Tour inspired music video for this. I think it would gag. And also, this could have been the first single. I really do think this could have been the single now that we're thinking about it and talking about me ranking the songs and where I put them all. I think that I Can Do It With a Broken Heart definitely was single material. So what were we doing not selecting that? I don't know. She was going for pure like moody vibes. I definitely think there is like a gap between the visual aesthetic that she presented for this record and its actual sonic identity, which is kind of similar to Midnight's too, because Midnight's suggested one thing and delivered another. And that's interesting. I mean, it's cool to expect one thing and go in coming out with like a completely different interpretation. But I do wonder at times, I'm like, well, how did we get to this vision with these songs? It doesn't always make sense. The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, straight into the canon. The tonal shift in were you sent by someone who wanted me dead? The higher vocal part that she sings entirely, that's kind of like muted into the background, gags me. It's like the Illicit Affair bridge on the Eras Tour. This song is one of her best written, most searing takedown songs ever. It is almost uncomfortably honest and uncomfortably raw, because Taylor at many times throughout this record, as I mentioned in my kind of like overview of the critical response, she's not painting herself in a very flattering light. And it's that very jarring confessional honesty that we've been needing, we've been missing. So The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived is a jaw-dropping moment for me. And you know what? Instantly an iconic moment and one of her best written songs of all time. We haven't seen a takedown this juicy since Dear John, truly. There hasn't been a target worthy enough until then. And now we have one. Thank you, Ratty Healy. Thank you so much. The Alchemy, a most beautiful diva. She's fun. She's a cute girl. I like to bop to the chorus. This is another song kind of like Fortnite that if I don't know what to listen to and this comes on, I'm turning it all the way up. Is it in my top 5 songs? Probably not, but it's fun. She's a cute girl. Clara Bow. A Most Beautiful Diva. I kind of want to put her straight into the canon, but I'm going to be a little bit discerning and strict with myself here. Clarabout is a really gorgeous, understated song. I think also, like Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, its subject matter doesn't necessarily belong on the standard track list, but there are really like interesting perspectives on her fame and her journey throughout her life, becoming a famous person, her desire to become a famous person, something that she hasn't really spoken a lot about, that hard, like growing part into it, the part where you don't know if you're actually going to be successful. That part, the glimpse into it, is very smart and interesting. And I also just love the sparse production on this. Jack Antonoff, again, you are everything to me. Thank you. The Black Dog, straight into the canon. I love this song. I think a lot of people are sleeping on this song. I posted a TikTok talking about how we need to move on from Jack Antonoff production for the next effort. And a lot of people pointed to the Black Dog as proof of that. And I was like, now, wait a minute, wait a second. No, no, diva. This song is a great example of Taylor and Jack at their very best, when they are truly in their bag. And that Bleachers production with the Old Habits Die Screaming is really, it reminds me of Getaway Car in a way that I'm very appreciative of. I'm going to Get You Back, straight into the canon. Now, this is just my personal thing. I don't think a lot of people are appreciating the song the way it deserves to be appreciated. It reminds me of Dress. I definitely do go into why I love the song so much on the anthology episode of the Evolution of a Snake podcast, which you can go and check out now on my YouTube. I won't get into it too much here, but I love the vocal delivery here, and I love Crazy Taylor. I love Scorpio Taylor. That really just is the vibe that I like to have. The Albatross, A Most Beautiful Diva. I find myself listening to this song a lot. The melody is really Gorgina. It has an Evermore vibe to it. Actually, my main issue with the anthology is that it just is Evermore Part 2. Most of it is like that. And, well, why put it on Tortured Poets? Why not Evermore Side B? Why not save it for when we do a reissue of an Evermore vinyl or something like that? I think there is a message here that gets diluted in some of the Evermore whatevers, but that doesn't matter, because what we can do is just reorganize the track list, baby, and cut a bunch of songs off of it, which is exactly what's going to happen. Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus. This song is very interesting lyrically, and I think very gorgeously written, but there's something about the way that it sounds where I'm just not drawn to listen to it all the time. So I'm going to put this in Gorgeous Girl because I think it adds a lot of context and sheds a lot of light on what the main issue was between Maddie Healy and Taylor, and also the gap between who they were when they met and who they ended up becoming when they found each other again. It kind of explains the whole thing. It answers a lot of the questions that are raised on the main track list, so I think it's important in that sense. How did it end? I think, well, okay. I like her, but she's not great. I don't really like the bridge that much. I am, for a piano ballad, there are two absolute divas on this record, LOML and The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. And How Did It End simply does not measure up to them. So it has to go lower. So High School, well, no. I don't care. I don't care for it. It's boring. It's not interesting to me. It certainly has nothing to do with the story being told on the record. Should have kept that one in the draft, but she had to put something on there for Travis as a little sprinkle, a little special to remind him, I love you now. I Hate It Here, straight into the canon. For me, I don't know what anyone else is doing. I don't care what anyone else thinks. This song, for me, explains who Taylor Swift is as an artist and why art is important to people who need to make it to live their lives. And I just appreciate having that perspective so much. Thank you, Amy. Delete. We just didn't need to rehash that again. There's no need for it. You know what? And where's Cassandra? She's going there too. Cassandra's getting deleted. Neither of these songs broach anything new or are particularly interesting. They cover emotional terrain that we have covered a million times before, and they do not do it in any sort of interesting, meaningful way. So that's why they're there. I Look in People's Windows, Gorgeous Girl. I don't return to her that much, but when I do, I like it. I haven't really even had time to listen to all of these songs because there's so many of them. It's only been out for a couple of weeks, and I'm the No Days Offologist. I have things to do. The Prophecy, one of the most compelling songs lyrically. I'm going to put her in Gorgeous Girl. That's where she needs to be. I don't know if it's the production. There is something about it that is just a little sleepy to me. Maybe it's that melody on the chorus that I'm not 100% a fan of. The lyrics gave me a lot of insights and gave me a lot to work with as a Taylor Swift historian, so I have to clap and cheer. Peter, goodbye. I'm not listening to that ever again. That is the kind of song that I just hate. Not even from a lyrical perspective, the way that it sounds, it's like Dorothea to me. It's earblood. I can't listen to it. It's a personal thing. If you like it, congratulations. Happy birthday. Happy for you. We're sorry that happened. It's not for me. The Bolter, it's okay. People are obsessed with this. I think if you love Champagne Problems, if you love Evermore, that song's for you. I think that Evermore is great. I don't love Champagne Problems that much. The Bolter is fine. Does it add anything to the story of the record? No. Robin, delete. This shouldn't even have made it out of the drafts. This should have stayed in the vault forever. It should have been a voice memo between her and Aaron Dessner about his child. The manuscript, well, okay. Here's my thing with the manuscript. I love what it's saying. The production is incredibly tedious and boring, especially as the very, very last track. At this point, you're kind of like, girl, can we come up with something else? And that is my current TTPD ranking. I personally, am always changing my mind. So this is subject to revision forever and always. Oh, for the last video that I did, I organized the top tier into like a direct descending order. So why don't we try and do that now? But Daddy I Love Him is going first. Yes, it is. That just needs to happen. It has to. Now I'm very torn. Everything else is like neck and neck for me. Guilty as Sin, I think, is going to go at number 2 for now. I just love that song. I'm so obsessed with it. I think The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived is number 3. I go feral when I hear that song, and I play it often. That's rare for like a real ballad for me. I have a time and place for my Taylor ballads, but this one, when it comes on, it's getting turned up and it's never getting turned off, and I'm not skipping through. After The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, I kind of want to do I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Yep, that seems about right. And then I think Fresh Out the Slammer after that. And then I think LOML. Absolutely. So then I'm probably going to go into I'm Going to Get You Back, if you can believe it, which I know you can't. And then I'm going to go into The Black Dog, and then I Hate It Here, and then Down Bad. And that seems right to me. Why don't we compare that to what I had there before? Okay, so you know what? This is actually pretty scarily accurate to what I had before. So in my top tier before, I had Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. Well, that didn't work, but Daddy I Love Him, tick. That was at number 2. Down Bad at number 3, tick. That's still there. I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, number 4, tick. My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. Sorry, girl, you didn't make the cut. So Long London also didn't make the cut. I Can Fix Him, No Really I Can. That didn't even get close. But I also had in there Fresh Out the Slammer and The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. So I correctly predicted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these songs. And how many are in there now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Hello. I think this is a very strong showing for an album that's this long, to have 11 songs that are straight into the canon. For me, I have to clap and cheer for that. Some noticeable differences. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me going from the top category to the third last? Well, she dropped. Guilty as Sin also rising straight up. LOML I had very low down, and now that's all the way up. Same with The Black Dog. I'm pleased with my prediction abilities. Congratulations to me. All right, now we've come to my favorite part of the video and the most controversial part. This is my personal ranking and reshuffling of the Tortured Poets department. Now, if you have a problem with it, go and make your own. That's what I have to say. I have cut it down to 20 songs. So the standard edition of Tortured Poets that I'm proposing here is 14 songs, and then there is an additional Midnight's 3 a.m. edition style of 6 other songs. So that is what I've whittled down from 31. I have cut 11 songs, and I think that people are not going to be happy about that. But you know what? I don't care. This is my channel. So how do we start this record? Well, let me tell you, not with Fortnite. The bookends of this record have totally changed. I didn't pay attention to what Taylor wanted here. Clarabo as a final track is interesting, but unfortunately, I don't think tells the message. Let's take a moment actually to talk about what I think the story I'm trying to tell here is. The story I'm trying to tell here is about what happens when you are in a long-term relationship and you end up stifling yourself and choosing safe over adventure and exciting for too long, and you end up dulling your feelings. And in order to bounce back and to rebound from that, you choose the stupidest possible rebound and you put everything into it. And what happens is you don't really, in the grand scheme of things, think that this person is the love of your life, but because of how dire the circumstances were that you existed in before you got into this rebound, suddenly the whole world is like electric and bright with possibility again, and you just latch on to the first person that makes you feel that way. Because this is an album about love bombing. This is an album about being completely and totally head over heels, teenage style, in love with someone for a 2-week period and then going, what the hell was that for? Why did I do that? And why did anyone let me do that? And why did I do it with this rat? That's the message that I think this story is telling. Stories that I think that are told on this record that are not interesting or pertinent to the main crux of the issue, anything about getting canceled, anything about taking shots at prior enemies that are not romantic, and anything that is about someone else's child or is so overly fictional that it cannot be described as autobiographical. Those are the things and the moments, the twists and turns that got the chop. So what we start this record with, in my opinion, where the story really begins, is So Long London. And I think that choral introduction to it and the way that you just get dropped right into the story with So Long London is a really interesting narrative device to use. And this track list actually was one of the hardest ones for me to create because it was really difficult to cut songs that I love from it to create a story, but I think I got there in the end. So Long London really gives us the lay of the land. I felt when I was listening to the album for the first time that I didn't get what was going on or where we could be situated until I got to So Long London. And then I was like, okay, this is starting to make sense to me now, because it is about, being in that stuck quicksand position and realizing that you need to be pulled out of your own misery, and also being a little bit angry at the person that, you were locked and trapped in that misery for. But there is also a finality to it. There is kind of like this was bad and you did me wrong, but I'm so over it now that I'm ready to kind of just leave you where you were and circle back to attacking you later if I need to. But for right now, you're good, and I just need to get out of here. So the second song that I have after So Long London is Guilty as Sin, because Guilty as Sin really is about, as I've mentioned earlier in this video, feeling guilty for something that you haven't yet done, but something that is clearly on your mind. And obviously, Guilty as Sin is a song that percolated over a period of time when they were even together, right? So I did debate opening with Guilty as Sin and going into So Long London, but I think sonically So Long London is a more beautiful way to introduce the record. And also Guilty as Sin being the second thing that you hear really sets you up for a good story, right? Like, so you hear, okay, you're miserable in your relationship, the check, we understand that, it's over, check. Number two, but you knew it was over for a long time and you were thinking about cheating, but you didn't, but you still feel guilty because that's how intense the thoughts you were having were. Is there an inappropriate relationship with someone starting to build, even if it's not necessarily physical? Well, yes. Could that be your own self? Well, yes. And that is where Guilty as Sin comes into play. And straight after Guilty as Sin, of course, we go into Fresh Out the Slammer. I am most happy with the 5-track run of the beginning of this record. That's where I feel very confident that I've got a good story going, a good pacing, and it's a really good listen. I also have to sit with this track list that I recreate for a couple of weeks in order to really feel like I'm getting it. So I think I've got it now. But the third track is Fresh Out the Slammer because, we've talked about how it's over. We've talked about how we've been wanting it to be over for a really long time. And now action. Now it's time. And there's a little bit of that anger coming back in, handcuffed to the way he was feeling. I mean, come on. She's a little mad. She's a little pissed, but she's going to take that anger and she's going to channel it into hyper fixating on the getaway car. And up next, after Fresh Out the Slammer, we have number 4, The Alchemy. Now, I know a lot of people are insistent that this is about Travis Kelce, and I have to stress to you again that I don't care that you think that. And also that doesn't matter when I'm looking at this story that I'm creating, because I'm not going by if you think that this is about Travis Kelce and therefore this throws off the timeline. I don't care. I'm doing an emotional chronology. This is not an exact depiction of the events. So go with this. If you don't want to, again, don't leave me another comment and tell me that you think The Alchemy is about Travis Kelce. I don't care. I've heard you. I've heard all of your explanations. I don't want to hear it again. The Alchemy is track number 4 because, after Fresh Out the Slammer, obviously there's a reason why she was drawn to someone before and she can't fight it anymore. Why bother when you could just enjoy and have fun? Kick your shoes off, put your heels up, and be a silly girl, because that is exactly what is about to happen. So The Alchemy is about, getting together and actualizing something that you've been wanting to actualize, circling around for a while. Track 5. Now, I always toy with the idea of not having the track 5 be a track 5. So if you don't know what a track 5 is, a track 5 is the point of a Taylor Swift album that elicits a strong emotion, often called a crying song. It is the most emotionally charged or intense, delusional, really well-written song on a record. And the original track 5 for this was So Long London, and I just think that was just so not a track 5. I mean, there are 4 or 5 different track 5s that you could actually go with on this record, and I had a really difficult time choosing which one. I kind of built different versions of this track list based on how this track 5 went, because the track 5 alters the rest of the track list, right? Because it's such an intense emotional moment. So I felt, because we have a lot of diva down to explore, we needed to have the diva up moment to explain the demise. So my track 5 is But Daddy I Love Him, because it's ridiculous, it's sprawling, it's over the top, it's ostentatious, it is gorgeously written, it addresses a couple different things while still staying true to the core message of the record. And I think that it is the most emotionally charged song on the album. It is very much like, well, I don't care what you think about me, I'm going to do what my heart tells me to do, because that's the way that I have always decided to live my life, says Taylor Swift. And after But Daddy I Love Him, we go into track 6, which is the Tortured Poets Department, which I think is kind of, she knew that this wasn't really a good match in the Tortured Poets Department, but she's forcing it. She's trying to make it fit, because she's admitting that she thinks a lot of the things that this person, Ratty Healy, does are a bit cringe and a bit annoying, but there's no one else who could understand that cringe like her. But there is still that element of like, oh, this is a little bit embarrassing that I'm doing this. So there's more awareness of this not necessarily being a But Daddy I Love Him situation coming through on this track. I did have a couple of moments where I was like, I want to cut this song. First, I was like, let's start with it. Then I was like, I want to cut it. And I originally had whittled this down to, with no Midnight's 3 a.m. edition, 13 songs. And then I was like, this is crazy. I can't be doing this. So Torture Poets is here. Number 7 is My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. And I'm really enjoying the vibe, the sonic vibe that we have so far. I feel like it's very cohesive and it makes sense. And also, here is the point where we need to discuss the breakdown. We know that he ghosted her, but when you actually look at the lyrical material on this record, we don't have a smoking gun. We don't have a this is the breakup moment. We only have her shell-shocked in the aftermath of it. And I think that's because he ghosted her. Like, it happened suddenly and randomly. There wasn't like a big dramatic point or inflection. So that's why I think going into this next song, the jarring transition kind of like makes sense. So Torture Poets into My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys at track 7. Then at track 8, we have The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. So My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys is about kind of still hoping that there might be a chance. Like, you should see him when he first got me. Like, it was so good, and it could maybe still be that. It could potentially still be good. And then we get to, was any of it true? After the delusions of But Daddy I Love Him, after not being able to fight the alchemy, after getting fresh out the slammer, after choosing to look past the cringe of this tortured poet in the department, suddenly, was any of it true? It's a gag moment. The opening of that song always gags me to the end of the earth, and I think that this is the right moment for the tonal shift to come in. So track 8 is The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, and track 9 is Down Bad, because Down Bad is about being truly despondent and being shell-shocked and being surprised. And I toyed with putting Down Bad after My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys, but I think that we do need to rebound to a high energy after The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived in order to let it breathe and to let it resonate and impact with how much of a gag it is. Then I have, after Down Bad, track 10 is How Did It End? How did it end? This is more to me about Joe than it is about Maddie Healy, but I think it can apply either way. And because I'm not going straight off of the muses, I'm going off of the vibe of a story and like an emotional chronology. Down Bad is like, okay, I can't believe that I just got dropped back into the world without you in it, and I don't know how I'm going to go on. And How Did It End is about kind of trying to understand what it was, the straw that broke the camel's back, and having other people kind of give their input into it, trying to do like a relationship autopsy, because a lot of this record is Taylor trying to figure out why she was left. She never gets at an answer, actually, which is what's so interesting about Tortured Poets. She is left wondering, because that's what happens when someone ghosts you. You just get like completely severed off from their emotional compass, and that leaves you very disoriented. After How Did It End, I have track 11 as Fortnight, because Fortnight is, I think, a surveying the wreckage kind of moment. It has a certain emotional remove from the immediacy of the events that the songs preceding it don't have. And, I Love You, It's Ruining My Life really is the thesis statement of this record. After Fortnight at track 12, I have I'm Gonna Get You Back, because I'm Gonna Get You Back, Down Bad, How Did It End, and Fortnight are all very linked. I'm Gonna Get You Back is like that very delusional, after you've done your hurting and you're licking your wounds, you're mad. I don't know if I'm gonna be your wife or smash up your bike. I'm pissed, but I still kind of want you, and I haven't decided whether I'm gonna punish you or please you. And I think that is a sexy, slinky moment that is interesting to explore on the main track list. And after I'm Gonna Get You Back, number 12, Jarring Transition King, number 13 is LOML. because we know that I'm going to get you back is delusional. Like, it's very clear that it's a crazy song and it's not going to come to any fruition, anything serious. And what happens next is LOML, like, damn, I lost somebody. And I need The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived and LOML to be far away from each other, because I think that The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived is anger, it's hurt, it's upset. LOML is sorrow, is a deep, profound sadness. It's not about losing someone. It's about losing the place that someone held in your heart. It's about thinking that your future was going to be one way and then suddenly having to be like, oh, I need to revise my entire plan now. That is sad. That is a sad moment. And that is the second to last song on my standard version of Tortured Poets. The very last song on the standard version is I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, because that transition that she had from LOML to I Can Do It With a Broken Heart really did it for me on the main track list. It was so crazy and interesting. And I think that it is the perfect tonal shift. It shows, those two songs in sequence really show the various complexities of the message that's explored on this record. So I was very happy with that, which means that our bookend tracks, our opening and closing numbers, are So Long London and I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. And I'm very pleased with that. I'm very pleased with that. So let's get into side B, whatever we want to call it. Let's call it the Tortured Poets 2 a.m. edition, because that's when this was announced. I think an anthology is far too long. We don't need that much space. So to really hone in on the message, I think what we need to be looking at on this side B part is the emotional terrain covered as Taylor is picking herself back up. And there is more scope here for her to think at a more removed distance about what it means to be Taylor Swift and to be Taylor Swift in love, and how her perspective on that has changed, and also how songwriting has helped that perspective change. So that's the value add that I think a side B can have here without straying too far away from the main subject of this record. So the first track on side B for me is I Hate It Here. It just has to be. I Hate It Here is about feeling like you are kind of like an alien in human clothing. And I think there's so much about like hating your life on this record. This record is about like, you know, being a human can be really rough sometimes because you can only control your reactions. You can't control other people's actions. And sometimes you can't even control your reactions when other people are acting super badly. So what do? Your impulse as a writer, as an artist, is to turn inward and go, you know what? I hate it here. I hate it here, but there's a gorgeous place that only I have access to. And that is a thesis statement for who Taylor Swift is as a writer. And that's why I think it's so important to have it on this record, where she said that she needed songwriting more than ever before. That's why I have it opening. Then I have at track 2, there are 6 tracks here, I Look in People's Windows, because I think it builds off of that I hate it here message. And I also think that there is a sonic cohesion that we can strive for and achieve here, which is very much an Evermore side B kind of vibe. So after I Look in People's Windows, I get into track number 3, which is The Albatross. The Albatross is an interesting song that plays with Taylor's relationship to being a famous woman who is known for breaking people's hearts, and the trials and tribulations of trying to bring someone into your life when the legend of who you are and how you give out your heart to other people is abstracted and kind of written for you on your behalf, and how that often ends things before they need to be ended, which is a loop that we explore a lot throughout this record. So I have The Albatross there. Then at track number 4, I have Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus, because it simply is the key to a lot of this stuff. It is about how sometimes you have an idea of something, and when you try and actualize that idea, it ends up becoming a complete total nightmare and a mess that you wish that you'd never gotten yourself into in the first place. As I've said before, sometimes the question is better than the answer, and this song just describes that perfectly. After that, I have The Black Dog, because I think that The Black Dog is really about how even when you know something is wrong, even when you know something is bad, even when something is over, as a writer, as a person with a broken heart, you ruminate, and time moves differently for the brokenhearted. And I think that, like, tonally, production-wise, it fits very well with the other songs that we have here. And the final concluding track on side B is The Prophecy, because The Prophecy is the tea. It is the most interesting song she has written from a content perspective about her relationship to love and her relationship to fate and karma, all of these things that she touches on very intensely and very moodily throughout her discography. There's a culmination here that is very interesting. And the most interesting thing to me about Tortured Poets is that it raises a lot more questions than it answers. And I think that The Prophecy is the perfect kind of place to end and pick back up for wherever we go next, because the way that Taylor Swift relates to love is something that is just destined to change forever, and it might be fated not even to go the way that she wants it to go. And I think that that is a compelling narrative device to use. I did toy with the idea of concluding with the manuscript here, but it felt like a forced conclusion, a daylight conclusion, like now I'm happy again. And now I don't need to look back at all my hurts because all is good. Whenever she says that, all is not good. Whenever she says, I'm over it, I'm healed, I'm fixed, this is the happiest I've ever been, everything makes sense. You need to be looking side eye. I said this last year. I said she was a crazy person. I said something was going on. I said she wasn't well. And now we're looking at the material, the evidence of that. So that is my reorganized track list. It really hurt my feelings to remove Clarabeau. That was a really hard one to cut. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me is gone. And I know people are going to be mad at that, but there was no space for it. In the concise and succinct story that I was telling, it didn't make sense. And what it does cover is kind of covered a little bit on The Albatross and other songs that talk about her relationship to the public eye in a less on the nose and more elegant and eloquent way. So that is my reorganized track list. I will, of course, leave that linked down below on Spotify for you to go and listen to at your leisure. Let me know what you think. Give it a listen all the way through, or maybe just listen to the standard edition and tell me what you think about that. I have put them together, but I might also break them up. Let me know if you liked this reorganized track list, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye, Swifties.